So let's take a look at how to multiply and divide rational expressions today. So here at the beginning of my notes, I've got a couple questions that I'd really love for you to just pause the video and give a try and see if you know how to do it. Maybe you do. We may come back at the end of the video and do those, but let's go down and start talking about how to multiply rational expressions. So step one is to factor everything if there is anything to factor. Okay? Then you cancel and also cross cancel, as you'll see today. And then the third step is to multiply the top and multiply the bottom. So we're going to multiply the numerators straight over, and then we're going to multiply the denominators straight over. Okay, there is no cross multiplication that we're doing today, so I'm trying to avoid that word cross multiplication. So we're going to multiply the tops, and we're going to multiply the bottoms, and then simplify if need be. So skill number one is multiplying rational expressions. One of two skills today. So let's look at this question here. We multiply fractions by multiplying the top and multiplying the bottom. Okay? Now my step one that I said above was to factor first. There's really nothing to factor unless you want to think about this as being 7 times y, you know, and then 16 is 4 times x. If you want to write all that out, that's fine. It's not really necessary here. The second thing was to cancel. Anything that's on the top that matches a factor that is on the bottom can be canceled. And notice how I did one big circle and one big circle because this is literally one giant fraction. Because we're multiplying, we can cancel anything that's on the top with anything on the bottom. Even this 8 way the heck over here can cancel with the 16 because 8 goes into 16 2 times. So 16 divided by 8 is 2. That's in the denominator. What about the 7 and the 21? 7 goes into 21 3 times. So the 3 ends up in the denominator. Now let's look at the x's. We have x to the first here and x to the third here. So this one factor of x cancels one of these, leaving an exponent of 2. So you have to be kind of neat with your work if you're going to mark it up like I'm doing right now. But this is one great way to do it. Then as we look at the y's, we have 2 factors of y on the top. That's y times y. And then we have 3 factors on the bottom, y. So these 2 factors cancel 2 of these, leaving 1 behind. Now, let me highlight everything that I have not crossed out. So I have a 3 here, I have a y to the first, I have a 2, and I have an x squared. Everything else got crossed out. So as it turns out, when we multiply the top, we just get the number 1. Of course, that doesn't always happen. It does in this question. Now, on the bottom, we get 3 and an x squared times, I almost forgot that 2 there. There's a 2 down there and a y. So we can go ahead and write this as 6x squared y. This would be the most simplified way to write this question after cross-canceling and canceling. It all comes out nice and simply. Do you notice how I did not write 56, right? And I didn't grab my calculator and multiply 21 times 16 and get a giant number and then have to reduce it. That would have taken a long time. This is much more efficient if you cancel things at the beginning. If you cancel things at the beginning and then do your multiplication. So let me go back to the steps again. Factor everything, cancel and cross-cancel, and then at the very end, we multiply the tops, and then we multiply the bottoms. All right, so here we have question letter B. I know this looks kind of scary. This section always sort of frightens students. They really freak out because they're afraid of fractions. But you can do this. The first step is to factor anything that you can factor. So I'm going to factor first. So we'll factor okay, the whole thing. So the first one is 1 plus 3n. There's really nothing there. No greatest common factor. The denominator, there's nothing to do there either. However, look at this second fraction. I think there's a GCF there, right? A greatest common factor. So they're both divisible by 2, so I'm going to factor them out. All over. And then I see a 3 here, but unfortunately these guys are not divisible by 3. So we cannot divide a 3 out of that, but just maybe we can reverse FOIL. And this is one of those more challenging ones. I've got quite a few videos on how to reverse FOIL these types of problems. 3n and n. And then if you put the -1 here and the +1 here, let's check our work. Do you see how +1 times -1 is -1? That's checked. That works. And then the outside is -3n, and the inside is 1n. What do those combine to be? -2n, check mark. So I've reverse foiled it. Now let's cross cancel. So in purple here, I'm going to cross cancel. Do you see anything on the top and bottom that matches? Because again, after all, this entire thing is one giant fraction. So you can just think of it as one giant fraction, so we can now cancel. I see a 2 here and a 2 here. Did you see that? There's one other thing. It's a little bit disguised. You see it? 3n plus 1 matches 1 plus 3n. They are the same thing. So this multiplication problem comes out to be n minus 2 is on top, and then n minus 1 is on the bottom. All right, so we factored, and then we canceled, and then we multiplied the top, multiplied the bottom, and wrote our final answer, which is typically in simplified form. Because we canceled everything here, the answer comes out in simplified form. Let's try another one. We have to factor first. So we have x plus 4, x minus 4, all over x plus 2, right? I did my reverse FOIL on that guy there. Now on the second part. So I'm looking at the top here, and I'm going to reverse FOIL and write it right here. Here we go. What multiplies to be 2 but combines to be positive 3? 2 and 1, x plus 2, x plus 1. What multiplies to be -4 but combines to be -3? It's going to be certainly x and x, right? And it's got to be -4 and positive 1. All right, so I factored first. That's step 1, factor. Now what do? We cancel anything that appears on the top and bottom because, once again, since we're multiplying, this is really just one giant fraction. And as we saw in the last section, we can cancel factors that match. So x plus 1, x plus 1, x minus 4, x minus 4. Oh my, wow. Another one, x plus 2 and x plus 2. So this entire mess simplifies to x plus 4. How cool is that? That is amazing, Mr. White, isn't it? It is really exciting when that works out so simply like that. Okay, folks, so that was skill number 1, was multiplying. We factored everything, and then we canceled, and then we just multiplied fractions, top and bottom. Dividing fractions, dividing rational expressions. How do we do this? Well, we will factor, but we will also change to multiplication with keep, change, flip, or multiply by the reciprocal, if you'd like to think of it that way. Keep, change, flip is a common way that teachers explain how you divide fractions. You'll see that here in a minute. And then you cancel, and then multiply, simplify. So those are the steps here. So once we change it to multiplication, it will be just like these previous problems up here. So let's see how this works. Divide the rational expressions. So I said we're going to change it to multiplication. So we change it to multiplication, by flipping over the second one. We find the reciprocal of the second one. All right, so in this first problem, I'll just write this like this. Reciprocal, or we flip. If that word reciprocal doesn't mean anything to you, write flip down. So we get k squared minus 3k minus 4, okay? 1 minus k squared, okay? Now let's factor. So I'll change colors here, and now factor. Now sometimes I do this all in one step, by the way, as I'm rewriting and I'm factoring as I'm going. So I kind of save a step. So now we're going to factor. We get k minus 3 over k plus 1. Those are both prime. They can't be factored at all. Then we're multiplying by k minus 4, k plus 1, all over 1 minus k, 1 plus k. A lot of factoring in this chapter, so you got to get comfortable with this. We then cancel. Remember the cross canceling? We think of it, then cancel. Okay, here we go. Anything that appears on the bottom and top. K plus 1 is the same as 1 plus k. And anything else match here? Anything else? I don't think so. I think that might be it. So this doesn't have a lot of stuff canceling, but there was a little bit. We then write our answer. Our final answer here would be k minus 3 on the top, k minus 4 on the top, all over k plus 1, and then k minus 1, or I'm sorry, not k minus 1. This would be 1 minus k. It matters. You could factor a negative 1 out of that. We're going to see a problem here in a moment where we're going to factor a negative 1 out. But that would be our answer right there. Don't worry about foiling it back out. Factored form is more useful. So leave it in factored form. That is something that students often ask me. Let's go over here to question E. Again, these problems look really intimidating, don't they? But all you have to do is factor and flip. So we're going to change to multiplication by flipping over the second one here. So I'm going to factor as I go also, okay? So 2 times the quantity, x plus 3, all over x plus 2 and x minus 1, times, all right, remember we're going to flip. So what I put right here is going to match what's right here. All right, so hopefully that highlighting will help you see that. X plus 2, x plus 1. Then the denominator will be x plus 3, because again, we're flipping over that guy. Everything is factored now, so we can cancel. Do you see anything on the top and bottom? Boom, boom. Lots of things factor. So what's left standing here is the answer. The answer would be 2, x plus 1, all over x minus 1. Okay, so that's how we multiply and divide these rational expressions. I've got one more problem queued up here. So let's try this one here. This is going to be 12yz over 10yz squared. I always hate writing z's, times, I'm going to flip. You got to flip over when we change to multiplication. So 4z over 5y squared z. Now, before I multiply, I cancel. Before I multiply, I cancel anything I can. All right, so I think this 4 goes into here, so we end up with a 2 and a 5. Right? And I think that might be it as far as the numbers go, because 5 does not go into 12, 2 doesn't go into 5, 5 doesn't go into 12, as we already said. So I think we're stuck as far as the numbers go. I think we can cross out some letters, though. We've got z here and z here. They're gone. We've got a y here and a y here, so that's gone. I've got a z here and 2 here, so that would change to a 1. So let me highlight everything that's still remaining. I've got a 12, I've got a 2, I've got a 5, I've got a z to the first, I've got a 5 and a y squared. So now I multiply the tops. I get 24 on the top. On the bottom, I get 25. And I had some y's, y squared, and I had a single z. So that would be my final answer. And again, since I did so much work, I did most of my work right here, right? All my canceling. My answer just comes out in simplest form. There's really nothing else I have to do there. So that's not too bad. All right, so here at the end of the notes, there's a skills post check. So what I would encourage you to do is to pause the video and try them on your own and then check your answers. See how you're doing. So go ahead and pause the video now. 3, 2, 1, pause. Great, now I'm going to work them out for you. So multiplying, this is just a situation where I'm going to cross cancel. 4 goes into 28 7 times. This x cancels one of these. These 4 y's are canceled 4 here, leaving 1 behind. So what do I have left? I have a 7 on the top. That's all that's left there. I've got a y to the first, I've got a 5, and I've got an x to the first. So I now multiply the tops, is just 7. I multiply the bottom, that's 5, x, y. So that's the answer to the first one. Again, make sure you've tried this next one before you watch me do it. Now this one has a trick in it where we're going to factor out a negative. So this is a really important one to try. So we're going to flip over that second one while I'm rewriting it and factoring. So here we go. This becomes multiplication. Today I have not said anything about cross multiplying, so please don't use that term cross multiplying. We're flipping over the second one. We're finding the reciprocal. The second one would be x plus 3 and x minus 1 all over 1 minus x squared, which is 1 plus x and 1 minus x. So let's cancel some things. I see an x plus 1 there and an x plus 1 there. I see an x minus 1 here and an x minus 1 here. All right, so the only thing left standing then was x plus 3 on the top and 1 minus x on the bottom. You could, if it's helpful, sometimes you factor out a negative 1 and it flips the signs on everything. Sometimes that's helpful. In this problem, it really didn't make a difference, so that would be your answer. All right, so hopefully you're feeling a bit more confident on multiplying and dividing rational expressions, and also continuing to practice your simplifying by factoring and canceling that we learned in the last section. All right, good luck, and until next time.